What unfolds when two of the boldest voices in entertainment collide over the most polarizing royal controversy of our time? The atmosphere in Studio One was electric, so thick with tension it felt like you could slice it with a knife. Meghan Markle entered the View's set with poise, her designer heels echoing sharply against the floor. Every step was deliberate. She knew this wouldn't be a friendly sit-down about a new Netflix series or a lifestyle book. This was Whoopi Goldberg's domain, and Whoopi came ready with questions that demanded real answers. But before we jump into the fiery exchange that left one woman in tears and the other storming off set, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below telling us what you think truly happened behind palace doors. Believe me, you'll want to hear every second of this unforgettable confrontation. The famous round table of The View had been prepped for what producers assumed would be a typical celebrity chat. Yet behind the scenes, the energy said otherwise. Meghan showed up half an hour late, her entourage of PR agents and assistants trailing close behind like a tightly choreographed squad. She wore a cream blazer that likely cost more than most viewers' rent, and her sleek, low bun framed a face that had become a royal symbol since she stepped away from the crown. Across the set, Whoopi Goldberg wasn't just reviewing notes, she was dissecting them with the precision of a seasoned prosecutor gearing up for a case. She had followed the royal drama for years, but recent revelations had frayed her last nerve. Her fellow co-hosts sensed a storm. Joy Behar kept sneaking glances between her cue cards, while Sarah N. nervously clicked her pen until Sunny Hostin gave her a glare sharp enough to stop her cold. During a commercial break, Whoopi murmured to her producer, "She thinks she can stroll in here and tell her story again." Her tone was edged with steel, the kind longtime viewers recognized as a warning sign. "I've been doing this a long time. I can smell when someone's telling a story." The red light blinked on, cameras rolled, and the mood shifted like thunderclouds rolling in. Meghan slid into her seat with elegant confidence, flashing that signature smile that had once won over millions. But under the studio's harsh lights, something felt off. She crossed her legs gracefully, hands folded, every bit the image of refined composure. "Welcome back to The View," Whoopi said evenly, though her voice carried an unmistakable edge. "We're here with Meghan Markle, and we're going to talk about some things that I believe deserve direct answers." Meghan's smile wavered, just barely, but Whoopi caught it. Years of experience had trained her to recognize the tiniest cracks in a public persona. "Thank you for having me." "Whoopi," Meghan replied, her tone polished with a mix of California cool and royal poise. "I'm always open to honest conversations about my journey." "Honest," Whoopi echoed, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Interesting choice of word. I've watched your interviews, your shows, your podcasts, and I've got to be honest, I'm struggling to understand which version of honest we're going with here." The studio felt suddenly colder. Meghan's publicist, seated just off camera, leaned forward, phone in hand, visibly bracing for damage control. Around the table, the other co-hosts exchanged tense glances. Something big was coming, and they all knew it. "I'm not sure I follow," Meghan replied, her voice steady but tinged with something more fragile beneath the surface. "I've always spoken truthfully about my life even when it hasn't been easy to do so." Whoopi reclined in her chair slightly, never taking her eyes off Meghan. "That's where I get confused. Because you've talked about racism within the royal family, about being silenced, about not being allowed to leave your home, even having your passport taken. But then we see you at polo matches, at charity galas, traveling to New York for that lavish baby shower surrounded by celebrities. So help me understand. I'm trying to reconcile two very different realities." Silence fell like a curtain. Even the buzz of the normally active studio seemed to fade. All eyes were on Meghan, who shifted in her seat as a visible crack appeared in her carefully composed exterior. Those appearances were carefully managed. Meghan began, her voice rising slightly, a tone Whoopi immediately recognized as someone feeling cornered. "You've got to understand," Meghan continued. The institution knows how to control the public narrative while still pulling strings behind the scenes. The institution? Whoopi repeated, tilting her head and narrowing her eyes. That phrase, it's vague, almost intentionally mysterious. What is this institution, exactly? Because when I think of institutions, I think of oppressive systems, slavery, Jim Crow, actual historical frameworks of racism with real names, real policies, and real consequences. Meghan's eyes narrowed. Was it anger? Or maybe the realization that she was facing someone who wasn't going to accept rehearsed responses. With all due respect, Whoopi, just because my experience is different from yours doesn't make it any less valid. I never said it wasn't valid, Whoopi replied, her tone firm, but words matter. And when you use terms like racism, institution, and silencing, you're drawing from a legacy of suffering that's deeply personal to a lot of people, so you need to be specific. The exchange was escalating quickly, faster than anyone on set had expected. Meghan's posture stiffened, her carefully curated poise slipping. Her hands clenched the arms of her chair as her voice turned cold. You want specifics? Fine, let's talk about how they questioned whether my baby would be dark enough to fit their image. Let's talk about how they denied him security because of how he might look. Whoopi leaned in, her eyebrows raised with a sudden jolt of intensity. Wait a minute. Are you saying the same royal family that publicly embraced your mixed-race mother, walked her down the aisle, suddenly had a problem with your child's skin tone? It's not that simple, Meghan replied, her voice climbing as she realized Whoopi wasn't going to let her off easy. These things happen in private behind closed doors. You wouldn't understand how racism operates in elite, polished environments. Wouldn't understand? Whoopi's tone dropped to a dangerous calm. The tension in the room was so thick that Joy Behar instinctively clutched her chest. Child, Whoopi said slowly, I was dealing with elite racism before you even knew what elite circles were. I've sat in boardrooms where I was the only black face. People smiling to my face, then saying things behind my back that would chill your soul. So don't you dare tell me I don't understand subtle racism. The room fell silent. The co-host looked stunned. Sarah Haynes had stopped nervously clicking her pen, and Sunny Hostin was scribbling notes like a trial lawyer prepping cross-examination. Meghan's mask was slipping, her voice breaking under pressure. That's not what I meant. This is what always happens. Every time I speak my truth, people twist it. They downplay what I've gone through. Your truth? Whoopi repeated softly, with a tinge of pity. See, that's part of the problem. Truth isn't personal. Truth is truth. Facts are facts. And the fact is, you married into one of the most privileged families in the world. You lived in palaces. You had resources most people will never dream of. And when things got tough like they do in every family, you lit a match and burned it all down, then claimed to be the victim. Victim? Meghan's voice cracked. Her composure finally collapsed. I was suicidal, Whoopi. I thought about ending my life. The pressure, the isolation, the attacks, it broke me. How is that playing victim? You could hear a pin drop. Even the camera crew froze. Everyone knew they were witnessing a moment that would go viral and live in reruns. Whoopi's eyes softened. For a second, real concern flashed across her face. I'm sorry you went through that, she said gently. Mental health is serious, and I'd never downplay that kind of pain. But if it was truly that dark, why didn't you seek help? There were resources available to you. Why not talk to Harry's family, especially given their public experiences with mental health? Because they were the problem, Meghan fired back. Her royal veneer was gone now. They created that environment. How could I go to the people hurting me and ask for help? All of them? Whoopi asked, pressing in. Every single person in that family was against you. Harry's brother who's struggled with anxiety. His father who spent years advocating for mental health. Even his grandmother who reportedly adored you, who lent you her personal jewels for official events. Meghan opened her mouth, then closed it. Her silence said more than any statement could. Off camera, her publicist had risen, making frantic signals to wrap the interview. But Whoopi wasn't done. You know what I think? She said, voice growing louder. I think you had expectations. You imagined a royal life out of a fairy tale. But when the reality didn't match your fantasy, instead of adjusting, you decided the whole system was wrong and you were the only one right. That's not fair, Meghan protested, tears finally forming. You don't know what it's like to be attacked by the press every single day. To have people hate you for no reason. To have lies printed nonstop. Lies? Whoopi leaned forward again. Let's break that down. You told Oprah you weren't prepared for royal life, that no one trained you. But we've seen video of you months before the wedding being taught protocol, getting coached at events. You claimed you didn't know about curtsying, but there's footage of you doing it the first time you met the Queen. Meghan's face was flushed, caught between embarrassment and fury. Those are minor details, she said. What matters is that I was thrown into all this without real support. Support? Whoopi echoed, relentless now. You had staff, advisors, Harry, experts on call. What you didn't have was someone telling you that your preferences didn't override centuries of tradition. This is ridiculous, Meghan snapped, her voice breaking again. I came here to share my experience and instead I'm being interrogated. This is exactly why I left. Interrogated? Whoopi's voice rose to match hers. Child, I'm asking the questions someone should have asked you a long time ago. If real journalism feels like an attack to you, then maybe the issue isn't the questions, it's your answers. The tension in the studio was unbearable, like the air had turned thick. The other co-hosts looked uncertain, as if they wanted to step in but didn't know how. Joy Behar kept glancing between the two women like she was watching a heated tennis match, while Sarah Haynes had one hand half raised, frozen in hesitation, as though she wanted to ask something but couldn't bring herself to cut in. I don't have to sit here and take this, Meghan said, her voice trembling with emotion. Her usual composed appearance was gone. I came here to have a respectful conversation about my experiences, not to be cross-examined like a criminal. Respectful? Whoopi leaned back slowly, never breaking eye contact. Let's talk about respect. What about respect for the people who face real, brutal racism every day? Or respect for the very institution that welcomed you? Or how about respect for the truth rather than the version that fits your story best? Meghan's tears were now falling freely. She struggled to speak, visibly shaken. Off camera, her publicist was waving frantically, clearly desperate to intervene. But the cameras kept rolling, and Whoopi wasn't finished. This was no longer an interview, it was a reckoning caught in real time. You know what really breaks my heart? Whoopi continued, her voice slicing through the silence. It's not that you struggled. It's that you had the power to make a real difference, to do good. And instead you turned it all into a personal drama. Meghan wiped at her cheeks, smearing her mascara into long, dark streaks. The camera captured every detail. That's not fair, she said. I've only ever tried to spotlight important issues to help where I can. Important issues? Whoopi's tone hardened. She threw her hands up. Like throwing a $40,000 baby shower in New York while people can't afford groceries? Or complaining about living in a cottage on Windsor grounds while families are losing homes? Or crying about your title while others are fighting for basic rights? The room went silent. Everyone knew this was more than a TV segment. It was history unfolding. Joy looked like she wanted to disappear, while Sunny was scribbling notes with such urgency it looked like smoke might rise from her pad. That's not how it happened. Meghan insisted, still crying but holding her ground. Everything I do gets twisted. Everything is taken out of context. It doesn't matter what I say, I can't win. Context? Whoopi leaned forward, eyes burning. Here's some context. I grew up poor. Not royal family in a smaller palace poor. Actual struggling to survive poor. I clawed my way up. I faced real racism backed by real laws. And I never blamed the world for my hardships. Now Meghan's publicist was behind the cameras, signaling wildly to stop the taping. But the producers wouldn't cut away. This was explosive. Raw TV, the kind of unscripted moment that becomes legendary. I never said I was the only one who struggled, Meghan shot back, her voice rising. But just because others have it worse doesn't mean my pain doesn't matter. Your pain does matter, Whoopi said, briefly softening. But how you've responded to it, that's the problem. When life got hard, when your dream life turned out to be flawed, you didn't adapt. You didn't work to fix it. You set fire to everything around you. You hurt the people who loved you. Then you came to the US and turned your family drama into a brand. Meghan visibly recoiled. A brand? She repeated. You think I'm doing this for branding? I lost everything, my home, my family, my identity. I had to start over from scratch. From scratch? Whoopi looked stunned. You had $1 million deals lined up before you even left the UK. You had Hollywood ties, Oprah on speed dial, a support network people dream of. That's not starting from nothing. That's privilege. At that, Meghan shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly. Behind her. I don't have to sit here and be attacked. This isn't an interview, it's a trap. Sit down, Whoopi said sharply, the weight of her authority filling the room. You came to share your story, so share it. But not just the polished parts. Tell the whole story. Meghan stood frozen, hands shaking. You want the truth? She said. Fine, it wasn't just about racism. Or the press. It's because I realized I would never be enough for them, no matter what I did. Enough for who? Whoopi asked, her voice softer now. Harry. Meghan's answer was barely a whisper. The studio crew leaned in, and even the boom operator adjusted his mic to capture her next words. I knew that no matter what he said, he'd always pick them over me when it mattered. Dead silence. This wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't in any interview notes. It was real, raw emotion pouring out live. So this was never just about racism, Whoopi said quietly. It was about a relationship, about a marriage falling apart, and a woman who needed to be the center of everything. Meghan's composure finally broke, her face crumpled as she sobbed openly. You don't get it, she said. You've never loved someone who made you feel like you were always competing with ghosts, with history, with a world that didn't want you. I actually do understand, Whoopi replied, now gentle. I know what it's like to love someone who can't give you what you need. I know how it feels to be an outsider. But I don't understand destroying people just because you're in pain, Meghan cried harder, all her media training and image building gone. I just wanted to be happy. I thought if I found the right person, built the right life, everything would fall into place. Life isn't perfect, Whoopi said. Neither is marriage or family. And when you're part of something bigger, sometimes your happiness isn't the top priority. But what about my happiness? Meghan asked. What about what I needed? What about Harry's happiness? Whoopi responded. What about the people he left behind, his father, his brother, his grandmother? Who's now gone? What about the people hurt when you blew it all up? Meghan said nothing. She just stood there crying, her perfect look now crumbling, her hair loose, her blazer creased. She didn't look like a duchess anymore. She looked human. I think we should take a break, Joy said softly. No, Whoopi said firmly. We're not cutting away. This is the conversation that needed to happen. It's been a long time coming. She looked directly at Meghan. You're smart, but you made bad decisions. And instead of owning them, you buried yourself deeper in a narrative that protects your ego. And now you're so far in, you can't see the truth anymore, Meghan's voice cracked. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I did make it all about me. The room was stunned. For the first time, she wasn't defending, she was admitting. This wasn't spin. It was someone confronting their mistakes. Liv, it's not too late, Whoopi said softly. It never is. You can still make things right, take accountability. Fix what's broken. But Meghan was already turning toward the exit. Her publicist rushed to her. I can't do this anymore, she said over her shoulder. I'm sorry. And just like that, she was gone. The set was still. The air was thick with disbelief. The cameras kept rolling. Whoopi looked straight into the lens, her face steady but kind. Sometimes the truth hurts. But sometimes we need to hear the hard things because that's how we grow. That's real life. The credits would soon roll, but the audience knew they'd just witnessed something unforgettable. A moment where image clashed with truth, and the truth didn't blink. If you made it to the end. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Whoopi too harsh? Or was this the honest reckoning we all needed to see? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go deeper than the headlines.